The tall golden gates of the alien palace opened slowly. Ronan stepped in, holding his small toolkit. His boots clicked against the shiny floor made of crystal-like stone. Everything around him looked rich, cold, and distant. He was the only human here, and everyone knew it. The Zarathi Empire had hired him to fix their old power systems. He was a skilled mechanic, quiet, careful, good at keeping his head down. But as he passed the giant pillars, he saw the eyes. Servants in gray clothes stood along the wall, heads down, lips sealed. None looked up, none moved, and all of them were girls. At the center of the hall, a tall alien with silver armor waited for him. "I am Commander Varen," he said. "You will do your job. Fix what we ask, and leave when we tell you." Ronan nodded. "Understood." "One rule," Varen added. His voice grew colder. "You do not speak to the servant girls. You do not touch them. You do not help them. Ever." Ronan frowned slightly. "Even if one is hurt?" The commander narrowed his eyes. "Especially then." Days passed. Ronan worked alone in the machine rooms under the palace. He stayed quiet. He followed the rule, but something felt wrong. One evening, while fixing a broken light near the garden doors, he heard something. A soft sound. Crying. He followed the sound and found her. A young alien girl sat in the rain, knees pulled to her chest. Her gray uniform was soaked. Her back was to him. Ronan stepped closer, but remembered the rule. He froze. She looked up. Her eyes were a soft, glowing violet. Beautiful and full of pain. One side of her face was bruised. "I didn't mean to. Spill it," she whispered. "But they still hit me." He looked around. No one else was there. She hugged her knees tighter. "I didn't cry then," she said, "but now it hurts and I'm cold." Ronan dropped his bag slowly. "I have a heat pack," he said. "I can leave it here, no touching." She nodded. "Thank you." He placed the pack near her and stepped back. She stared at him again. "You're the only one who looked at me." That night, Ronan couldn't sleep. He saw her eyes every time he closed his own. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing. That girl didn't deserve this life. The next day, she was gone from the garden. But Ronan found something strange in his workshop. His tools were cleaned, neatly placed, and beside them, a small fruit. Fresh. Wrapped in a cloth. He looked around. No one. But someone had helped him. Later that week, Ronan saw her again, cleaning near the engine rooms. She looked at him only for a second, then lowered her eyes and walked away. But he saw the smallest smile on her lips. He didn't speak, he didn't touch, he followed the rule. But now, he wanted to break it. One morning, while working on a power relay, he reached for a tool and found it already in his hand. She was standing beside him. Close. Too close. He looked at her. She looked at him. Then whispered, "You're not like the others." Before he could answer, she slipped away again. That night, Ronan walked to the same garden. She was there, waiting. She didn't cry this time. She just looked up and said, "I don't want gifts." He tilted his head. "Then what do you want?" She whispered, "I want to remember what kindness feels like." And just like that, Ronan knew. This wasn't just a job anymore. And this girl, this silent servant the Empire had forgotten, she was more human than the people who ruled here, but someone was watching. Behind the curtain, unseen eyes blinked, and a voice whispered into a hidden communicator. "The human has spoken to her. He is breaking the rule." Ronan worked faster than usual. His hands fixed wires and power cells, but his mind stayed on her. That servant girl, the one with the soft violet eyes, the one who said, "I want to remember what kindness feels like." Hadn't seen her since that night in the garden. And yet, his tools were still being cleaned. Fresh cloths replaced the old ones. Even a warm drink had been left beside his workbench. He never saw her do it. But he knew. It was her. No one else in. The palace noticed, or maybe no one cared. But someone was watching from the shadows. That evening, Ronan returned to his room and found something lying on his bed, a small, hand-sewn cloth. Inside it was a folded note written in shaky English. "I'm not supposed to feel anything, but I do. No name, no signature, just the note." He folded it carefully and placed it in his jacket. His heartbeat quickened. The next day, he saw her again, near the energy panels, alone. She wasn't working, just standing, waiting. Their eyes met. He walked toward her slowly, carefully, as if the air between them might break. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she gently placed a soft fruit in his hand and looked into his eyes. Those violet eyes held more than words. More than silence. They held a message, a plea. Then she said in a whisper, "Because when you looked at me, you didn't look through me." He didn't know what to say. So he just stood there, watching her turn and disappear again into the palace halls. Later that day, a guard cornered him near the loading bay, a large Zyrathi with armor and red eyes. "You've been near the servant," he said coldly. "She's not yours." Ronan stayed calm. "I haven't touched her." "Don't think we don't see," the guard growled. "She's marked." "Marked for what?" The alien smirked. "Something worse than punishment." That night, Ronan sat alone in the engine room. The hum of the machines filled the space, but his heart was louder. He pulled out the note again. He read the words. "I'm not supposed to feel anything, but I do." Suddenly, a quiet knock at the side door, 3 soft taps. He opened it, just a crack. She stood there, drenched from the light rain, hair sticking to her cheeks, hands shaking. "I had nowhere else to go," she said softly. "They know." He opened the door wider. "Come in." She stepped inside. He gave her a towel, then sat across from her. They said nothing for a while, only silence, and then she spoke. "My name is Sarai." Ronan blinked. "That's beautiful." She gave a small smile. "It was my mother's name too. Before they took everything," he nodded. "I want to know you, Sarai." She looked down. No one ever asked before. Suddenly she leaned forward, her voice low. "Afraid. They're planning to move me." "Where?" "Somewhere far. Somewhere no one comes back from." Ronan stood up, his fist clenched. "That's not going to happen." Sarai's eyes met his again, and in that moment something passed between them. Not just trust, not just warmth, something deeper. Love had not been spoken, but it had been felt, and that made it more dangerous than anything else. A camera blinked above. Them, quiet, watching, recording everything. Deep inside the palace control room, a cold voice whispered, "The human is getting too close. Move the girl tomorrow." The palace halls were colder than usual, not in temperature but in silence. Something had changed. Servants walked faster, eyes stayed low, the guards looked sharper, harsher. Even the air felt like it was watching. Ronan noticed it. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a problem. He kept to his workbench that morning, tools in hand, mind spinning. Where had they taken Sarai? He hadn't seen her since last night, after she whispered, "They're moving me." She had vanished before dawn. He checked every hallway, every chamber. She was nowhere, but someone had left a message on the back of his datapad, scratched with a sharp edge. "Basement, tonight, door 7, no name, no explanation." But Ronan knew exactly who wrote it. That night, he waited until the lights dimmed and footsteps faded. Then he slipped through the service tunnels down to the lowest level of the palace. Door 7 was old, rusted, locked, but he picked it open with care. Inside, stone walls, chains, and in the corner, a small figure. "Sarai," he breathed. She looked up, bruises on her wrists, eyes tired but alive. "You came," she whispered. I told you I would. He rushed to her, breaking the light chains with a hidden cutter. She didn't speak. She just leaned against his shoulder, like she hadn't touched safety in years. Suddenly, a noise. Footsteps. Close. Too close. Ronan dragged her behind a large machine, covering her with his jacket. 2 guards entered. They spoke in low voices. Commander says she's being sent to the mines. Tomorrow. She's not going to last there, the other said. She's too soft. She'll be gone within a week. That's the point. Ronan felt fire build in his chest. They were going to erase her quietly, cruelly, like throwing away a broken tool. Once the guards left, he looked at Sarai. We're getting you out. She shook her head. You'll be marked too. Branded. I don't care, he said. You should. They slipped back into the walls, unseen, but the cameras had already caught the chain being cut, already alerted security. And somewhere in the control tower, the palace eyes turned red. The human was now a threat. The next morning, Ronan reported to work as usual, acted normal. But whispers followed him. Servants looked away. A few nodded at him softly, as if they knew something. He realized then, the walls had mouths. One girl passed him a cleaning cloth with a note folded inside. He opened it later in the storage room. They're watching you, but some of us are still with you. It was signed with a small drawn star, Sarai's symbol. She had told him once. Stars don't need voices to be seen. The message gave him hope. But the danger was rising fast. That night, he returned to his room, found his door already open, a guard inside. Baron, the cold commander, stood near his table. He was holding Sarai's note. You think we don't see? Baron said, voice low. You think your kindness is a secret? Ronan didn't speak, didn't blink. The commander stepped closer. This palace doesn't break. Rules for love. Ronan looked up, his voice calm. But love breaks palaces. Baron's eyes narrowed. This is your final warning, human. Touch her again, and both of you disappear. Ronan waited until the commander left. Then he pulled out the map he had stolen weeks ago. Tunnels, ducts, escape paths. He circled one, his heart steady. He wasn't just going to run, he was going to take her with him. The sky above the alien palace turned dark. A storm was coming, not just in the clouds, but inside the cold stone walls. Ronan could feel it. Tonight, something was going to happen. Guards walked faster through the halls. Doors closed louder, and no one looked him in the eye. Not even the servants. In the shadows, Ronan waited. He checked his map again. The hidden tunnel below the water pipes led to the loading dock. It was the only way out. But he had to find her. Sarai. The message he got earlier was clear. They're moving her tonight, before the sun rises. If he was even 1 minute late, they would take her away forever. He moved quickly through the lower levels. The guard at the elevator had already been drugged, thanks to the small help of a silent servant girl who nodded as he passed. He whispered, "Thank you." She only said, "Save her." In the transport room, Sarai stood in a metal cage. Her hands were tied, a shock collar around her neck. 3 guards stood near her. One held a control box. Another typed in the travel code. Sarai didn't cry, but she looked around like she was searching for one last glimpse of hope. Then, her eyes landed on him. Ronan. She didn't say anything, but her eyes said everything. You came. Ronan stepped forward from behind the cargo crates. One guard turned, surprised. Too late. With one quick motion, Ronan struck him with a heavy tool. The second guard reached for a weapon. Ronan tackled him. They hit the floor hard. The control box slid across the room. The third guard grabbed Sarai's arm and activated the collar. Electric light sparked. She screamed. Ronan grabbed a pipe and swung. The box shattered. The collar turned off. Sarai fell, but Ronan caught her. He pulled the collar off and threw it away. The alarm began to ring. Red lights flashed. The whole palace would know in seconds. But he didn't care. He picked Sarai up in his arms. "We're leaving," he said. Through the smoke and sirens, they ran down the tunnel. Steam hissed from broken vents. Above them, the walls shook with footsteps and shouting, but they didn't stop. At one point, Sarai stumbled. "I can't." "You can," Ronan said. "You have to." He didn't let go of her hand. Not this time. Not ever again. They reached the final gate. Locked. He slammed his body into it. Once. Twice. Metal cracked. Sarai reached out and placed her hand on a hidden sensor. It scanned her. A green light blinked. Royal ID confirmed. The gate opened. Behind them, guards shouted. Lasers fired. One bolt scraped Ronan's arm, but he didn't stop. He pushed Sarai through the door, then slammed it shut behind them, and locked it. Outside, a small old freighter waited. One of the transport ships Ronan had quietly repaired weeks ago. He had prepared for this, just in case. They climbed aboard. The engines roared to life. As the palace doors exploded open behind them, Ronan hit the thrusters. The ship rose into the stormy night sky. Sarai sat beside him, shaking. Not from fear, from relief, from something she had never felt before. Freedom. Ronan looked at her, her hair messy, her dress torn, her hands bleeding, and yet he had never seen anything more beautiful. "You broke every rule," she whispered. He smiled. "You were worth it." Outside the window, the palace became small. The planet shrank behind them, and Sarai placed her head on his shoulder. "No one ever chose me," she said softly. "Not until you." He didn't answer with words. He just held her hand. Far away, on another screen deep in space, a new signal blinked. The Empire had lost something tonight, but love had won. The stars outside the ship's window looked peaceful, but inside the small freighter, Ronan's heart beat fast. Sarai sat quietly beside him, wrapped in an old blanket. She hadn't spoken much since they escaped. She was free now. But freedom came with fear. Her hands were shaking. Ronan noticed but didn't reach out. Not yet. He remembered the rule from the palace. Do not touch the servant girl. It still echoed in his mind. Even now, even here, where no one could stop him. She turned her head slowly. Her violet eyes stared at him. Then in a soft voice she asked, "Can I touch you?" Ronan froze. He didn't expect the question. Not from her. Not now. He gave a small nod, and gently, Sarai placed her hand over his. It was the first time she had ever touched someone without being ordered. No fear, no punishment, just warmth. Her fingers were cold, but her touch was real, human, alive. "I thought I forgot how to feel," she whispered. Ronan didn't speak. He just held her hand tighter. They sat like that in silence, not needing words, not needing permission. Later that night, Ronan bandaged the wound on his arm, the one from the guard's laser. Sarai sat across from him watching. "You got hurt saving me," she said. "I'd get hurt again if it meant you were safe." She blinked, then looked down. Her voice cracked. "I've been used my whole life, Ronan. By people who said they'd protect me, but they only wanted to own me." Ronan looked at her with calm eyes. "You're not owned." "But I have nothing," she said. "Not even a home. You have one now." "Where?" He pointed to his chest. "Here." Sarai stood up and walked slowly to him. She sat beside him on the floor and leaned her head against his shoulder. She didn't cry, but he could feel the pain in her silence and her hope. He put his arm around her. The first real embrace she had ever known, and the one thing she thought she'd never feel. She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "I don't know what this is between us," she said, "but I want it to stay." "So do I." Suddenly the ship's alarm beeped, a warning. They had crossed into a new sector. A message flashed on the screen. "Empire Patrol Zone, All vessels identify immediately. Ronan cursed under his breath. They weren't safe yet. Not even close. He turned to Sarai. Get to the back. Stay low. What about you? I'll stall them. As she hurried to hide, she looked back and whispered, Don't let them take me again. He met her gaze. I won't. The stars outside were quiet. But warships had already started moving, and in the shadows of the galaxy, the Empire had not forgotten the rule Ronan broke. The rain poured hard that night. Thunder shook the windows. Cold wind slipped under the doors. The human boy, Kale, sat by the fire in his quiet room holding a book. But he wasn't reading. He kept thinking about her. The alien servant girl, Lyra, she was different from the others. Quiet, soft, always keeping her eyes low. But her eyes, those deep silver eyes, spoke pain, and something else too. A silent question, a quiet hope. Kyle had helped her in small ways before. A warm cloth, a kind smile, a silent promise not to hurt her. And now, every time they crossed paths, she would look at him just for a second longer. Tonight felt different. Suddenly there was a knock, a light knock. Kyle stood up, heart beating faster. No one ever came to his room, not at this hour. He walked slowly to the door and opened it. There she stood, Lyra. Her hair was wet. Her simple servant dress was soaked and clinging to her thin frame. Her lips were pale, her eyes filled with fear, but not the usual fear. This time it was the kind that comes before making a choice. Lyra? Kale whispered. She didn't answer. She looked down, shivering. Kale quickly pulled her inside and shut the door. You'll get sick, he said, rushing to get a towel. She didn't move. He placed the towel in her hands. She took it slowly but didn't use it. Instead, she looked up at him and spoke in a quiet, shaky voice. I feel cold. Kyle nodded. I can give you something dry. No. She interrupted softly. I feel cold. Inside. Her hands trembled as she held the towel. Water dripped from her sleeves. Her voice was low, but it cut through Kyle's heart like a blade of sorrow. I don't want food, she whispered. Not a blanket, not a gift. Kyle looked into her eyes. Then what do you want, Lyra? She hesitated. Then she stepped forward, just one small step, and looked up at him. Please, she said, voice almost breaking. Hold me. Kyle froze. He knew the rule. No human could touch an alien servant. It was law in his house. Even offering comfort was forbidden. His father had warned him. These creatures are not your equals. They are here to serve. But Kale had never believed that. Still, this was dangerous. Very dangerous. Lyra, he said slowly. If someone sees us, I know, she said, lowering her head. I know it's wrong in your world, but in my world, a touch means warmth. A touch means I'm not alone. I just want to feel like I still exist. Her voice shook. I haven't been touched kindly in so long. I don't even remember what it feels like. Kyle looked at her. Really looked. Not at her alien skin or pointed ears or silver eyes, but at the soul inside. At the girl who had lost everything, her home, her name, her freedom. And still, she was brave enough to ask for something forbidden. Kyle stepped closer. Slowly, gently, he placed his arms around her. At first, she stood stiff, not knowing what to do. Then her arms moved, hesitantly, around his waist. Her forehead touched his chest. She let out a soft, shaky breath. And then she cried. Not loudly, not wildly, but silently. Tears that had waited for years, tears that had never been allowed. He felt her pain in every drop that soaked his shirt. He didn't speak. He didn't move, he just held her, because sometimes words were not enough. After a long while, her breathing slowed. She pulled back just a little and looked up at him. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. he said softly. She smiled for the first time. It was small, almost unsure, but it was there. A smile. And in that moment, she didn't look like a servant. She looked like someone who had found a tiny piece of peace. Cale handed her a dry cloak. "You can rest here tonight," he said. "No one will disturb you." She nodded slowly, eyes still shining with tears. As she lay on the small couch, wrapped in warmth, she whispered one last thing before sleep came. "Thank you for seeing me." The morning sun rose quietly, casting soft golden light into Cale's room. A gentle silence filled the space, peaceful, still. Lyra slept curled on the couch, wrapped in the warm cloak he had given her. For the first time since arriving at the estate, her face looked calm. No fear. No sadness. Kyle sat nearby, watching her breathe. He had touched her, broken the rule. But he didn't feel guilt. He felt right. Still, he knew this couldn't stay hidden for long. Outside, trouble was already growing. A servant had noticed Lyra walking toward Cale's room the night before. Whispers spread like fire. By mid-morning, Cale's father stormed into the house, his boots loud, his voice louder. "Where is she?" he shouted. "Where's the alien girl?" Cale stepped out, blocking the hall. "She's not your concern anymore." The master's eyes narrowed. "You touched her, didn't you? You broke the law of this house." "She's not a thing," Kyle shouted. "She's a person. She asked me for kindness, and I gave it. That's not a crime." "It is here," his father said coldly. "She will be removed, sent back to the trade camps." "No," Kyle said. "I won't let that happen." "You can't stop it," the master growled. "She belongs to this house. She was bought, paid for." "No," Cale said again, his voice stronger. "She doesn't belong to anyone." Behind them, Lyra appeared, in the hallway. Silent, pale, eyes full of fear. She had heard everything, but she didn't run. She stepped forward. "I'll go," she said quietly. "If it saves him, I'll leave." Kyle turned sharply. "No, I won't let you sacrifice yourself again," his father laughed. "What will you do, boy? Run away with her? Throw your future away for a servant?" Kyle stood tall. "She's not a servant to me. I'd rather lose this home than lose her." The silence that followed was thick. Kyle took Lyra's hand. She didn't pull away. Together they walked past the master, past the guards, the other servants, the watchers. No one moved. They left the estate with nothing but clothes and courage. But they had freedom. They walked for miles, through quiet fields and broken towns, until they reached a nearby rebel zone, a place where human laws didn't control alien lives. There, Cale used his old contacts to speak with an officer. "She's not a slave," Cale said. "She was taken, trained to serve, but she was never given a choice. I want her to have one." The officer looked at Lyra. "Do you want to register as a free being?" Lyra looked at Cale. "I want to be myself," she said. "Not property, not a title, just someone." The officer nodded. Papers were signed. A chip removed from under her skin, and just like that, Lyra was free. Later that night, in a small rented room, Lyra stood by the window, staring at the stars. Cale joined her. "You're free now," he said gently. She turned to him. "I don't even know what to do with freedom." "Anything you want," Cale said with a smile. "I don't have a name," she whispered. "They took it, replaced it with a number." Cale looked into her eyes. "Then let me give you one." She blinked. He stepped closer and said softly, "From now on, you are Lyra. It means light after darkness in the old language." Tears formed in her eyes. "Lyra," she whispered. "I like that." He reached out his hand. "Walk with me, where there are no masters, no chains, just two people." She took his hand and smiled. This time the smile was full.